Welcome back to Awaken Atlanta. I am Tim Ray with the co-host Shannon.
Good morning.
And we are having just don't you love our news segment? I feel sorry for like all the guests who come on after the news segment because we're all wild up and they could either agree or disagree. Who knows where they stand.
They're like, oh my gosh, I voted for Biden and I wear a mask. Like, what am I going to do? What show did I just walk into? We love you. You're welcome here.
Jennifer, we have Jennifer Lonnberg here. She has been on the show before. I love her so much. She's fantastic, so wise and brilliant, and she's just in touch with her psychic skill set.
Good morning, Jennifer.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Good. Thanks for being on our show.
Where are you calling from?
Well, actually, we are just now in Colby, Kansas.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's a great place to be in Kansas. Oh,
yeah.
You got your RV rocking and rolling, don't you?
I thought that was an RV. How cool is that?
We've been doing this for going on 3 years. January will be 3 years that we've been doing this. So.
No. Have you had any trouble getting to any states at all? They screen you?
No, we haven't. It's so weird, but you have to remember when you get to the details, we've talked about this before, you create your reality, right?
Yes.
So if you expect to have problems, chances are you will.
Speaking of problems, what do you see happening at the Grand Conjunction December 21st? 2020. Do you think that we're going to have a world of beauty and light, or do you think that people are going to create more problems? Does it just depend on our intention?
I think it's both, right? It depends on our intention. We have to remember, I want to back up just a tiny bit of that because everybody's like so focused on just the date, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now in astrology, the reason that's important, astronomy, astrology, both the way we look at the stars and the way we interpret the stars, right? It happens exact on that day. And the reason that it's getting so much attention right now is because it's such an exact and longitude, latitude, it makes a perfect square, right? On top of that, because of the way they're aligning, it's like the Christmas star all over again.
Yes.
We're moving into Aquarius. There's a new moon on the 14th. Like if you look at astrology, there's so much in the month of December. It's just baffling. But when I go directly to my guides, it's really interesting because what I've been seeing is almost like an Etch-a-Sketch. Like, you know how if you draw on an Etch-a-Sketch and then you like shake it and it's blank? So we're moving into this new energy. At the beginning of 2020, my guides kept saying that like all of the structures as we know them, church, government, healthcare, schooling, like in January, they told me, and I recorded this for my Patreon, and I'm listening back to it now going, oh my God, they told us all of this was going to happen, that all of those structures were going to crumble, and that they have to do that because you guys on this show talk about the ascension and the awakening and all of those kind of things. Those old structures are not in integrity that's going to match as we move into the Aquarian energy, right? The age of Aquarius, that's why this conjunction is so important. It's Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius at 0 degree. It's finishing up 29 degrees of Capricorn. So there's all of these things going on. But just like the moon, right? We know that we feel a full moon. You don't feel it only in that exact moment. You feel it 2 or 3 days before, 2 or 3 days after.
Right.
That's just a full moon. So take this in a planetary level. We've been feeling the buildup to this, and we're going to feel it again for the next couple of years as things kind of settle in.
Wow. What is going to settle in, though? What is going to happen? What is to come for us?
So
Jennifer has all the answers to the future.
No, I wish I did, right? Like, I wish I could just say, this is exactly what's going to happen. But we have to know that collectively, we're all creating this together. So as people awaken, what's really interesting is my guides still, even as I'm trying to say this right now, they're showing me there's actually going to be like 2 different realities happening at the same time.
See, that's what I think.
It's happening right now. Look at you watch the mainstream media and then you listen to us. 2 separate realities.
Yes,
and that's the intention of the people that want to wake up compared to the people that are like non-player characters. That's the best way to put it, right?
NPC, baby.
That's exactly it. And it's funny because last week I literally recorded a message and the guide said, for those who are willing to awaken or those who are willing to see.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's up to us.
It's totally.
So what do you see for the people that want to wake up? What are the guides telling you for the people that are ready to see?
So I've been hearing this since 2 years ago when I started feeling that turbulent times were coming. Those are the words that they gave me, was turbulent times are coming. And then through January, they keep saying, and I'm seeing the light at the end of the tunnel now. Like, I know as we move through this, if you can be in integrity, if you can personally know why you believe what you believe and if you can personally I want to say really anchor in, is that truth? Like what you believe, is that really true? Or are you just believing it because you're being told to believe that, right? Like we have to do that work internally within ourselves to awaken to the truth and then be willing to see it, because free will can either be illuminating or it can be a prison. It's totally up to you.
This is why everybody needs to go out and read the book, the Code of an Extraordinary Mind. Have you read that?
I have not.
It's basically what you're saying. And this is on my journey personally. I'm realizing we're indoctrinated by bullshit rules, basically, that we take on to our adult life and we teach our kids, that it really holds us back from living our best self and our truest life.
Yeah. And to me, that's everything once you realize that. But, Jennifer, I find it fascinating that how many people are still, even they just don't
want to know. They're comfortable where they're at.
Well, they hear what you're saying, they hear what we're saying, but then they're like, that's too much for me. I'm happy just sticking my head in the sand. Is there any connection of that type of reality that they're going to experience because they are aware, but yet they don't want to deal with it, versus the person who's just totally clueless? Are there any positive, negatives to that type of experience in their reality?
Absolutely, because when you're choosing to stick your head in the sand, that's using your free will, right? So it's like seeing somebody, in an accident and not wanting to try to help. You just, who cares? I'm just going to keep going. Anybody that normally it's like you want to help, right? So you're literally making a choice with everything that you do. And so January of this year, my guide said, ignorance is bliss no more.
Ignorance is
totally foretelling for this year, right?
Yeah.
Ignorance is bliss no more. So you can't choose, once you're faced with it, you've got to choose. Am I going to look at this and decide for myself? You've got to discern for yourself and then really take on the personal work of, what does this mean for me? Why is this showing up? What am I supposed to be seeing? Right? Because the work I do, I try to make it always come back into the individual, because if we heal individually and we can heal our own shadow, that helps clear the shadow, the darkness, the, deep state, whatever you want to call it, whatever label you put on that.
Right. The
more we heal that internally, the more that it will reflect in the collective.
Do you think that people that don't want to get it, they just need to come back? They need to ascend and come back a couple more times, and the people that do want to get it, they can actually move on?
Because karma, right? Karma is still something that it's kind of funny, because karma used to be so you could feel it and it was so heavy, and it's almost like there's a different kind of choice point now, where when we create our own karma, it just feels different than what it used to be. There's something to be said about ancient wisdom that is going to be reawakened within everybody. And I don't know why I'm feeling like I'm saying this, but it will kind of restructure even the way karma is done. And I don't really know what that means. As my guides are saying it, I'm not really clear on what that means, but
maybe
I do feel like
there is no such thing as karma unless you're creating it yourself. Because that's what I think.
Well, and that's when it's all a choice, right? Every time you incarnate, you make choices. So whatever, you always have consequence, right? Consequence can be good. Either you made really good choices and you're having good consequences, or you've made bad choices and there are bad consequences.
Do you see, because as a psychic now, so you're not an astrologer, right? Do you know why it's so important for Jupiter and Saturn, these particular planets, to be 0.1 degree apart from each other?
Yes. So I've actually been, I've loved astrology forever, but I've actually been studying it for a year. Okay. But I'm telling you, the things that are happening right now, I don't feel like a qualified astrologer. I would need to study this for years to be able to understand. But the thing that I do know is that Jupiter is all about expanding, right? So expanding, if we go into what we're talking about right now, expanding awareness of what's going on. Saturn, to me, is always that really hard teacher that you had in high school, but they were really hard, but it was for your benefit. Right. And then when you got it right, they were like, yes, good job. You know what I mean? But they were hard because they wanted you to learn it. That's kind of what Saturn is like. You have to do this to be able to move into the expanded beauty that you can have. If you want to run track, you've got to go work out and run, right? You can't just like expect to win if you don't do the work.
People that just say, I'm going to manifest, I'm going to sit here, or I'm going to pray about something, but you're not doing the actions, you're not going to get anywhere.
But you have to take action. Yeah, you have to take action.
So I find it fascinating. So Jennifer, when you refer back to the turbulence days, when you had that kind of the interaction with your guides a couple of years ago, did they give you some specifics of what the turbulence would look like?
Well, they did. They said turbulent times were coming, and then they had followed that up with it was going to be internal first, right? Like we've got to look internally. If you lose your job, how are you dealing with that? Are you like, okay, well, that door's shut. Now what? Where can I put my resume? Or are you sitting at home being miserable and frustrated that you don't have a job, right? Where are you taking radical responsibility? Yeah. The two main keys for this year were radical responsibility. So self-responsibility, being responsible for your choices, for your thoughts, for your actions, for your deeds, all of that. And then also breaking the dysfunctional human condition, which kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about like, do you just believe this because that's what you've been told?
You're indoctrinated. Yeah. You know, I think that right there, you should, as an individual, we should all ask ourselves, hey, does the universe have an abundance for us, or does the universe have lack? And that answers your question right there with where you kind of stand. Because once you see that there's a freaking abundance, there is no stopping a person. And
there's no this, like they call it being deprived, or there's not enough to go around for everyone. And that is such an illusion, because if the universe is abundant, it can't be limited, right? It can't be lack. So they can't be abundance and lack at the same time. They're mutually exclusive, right?
Right. And, that's actually one of the key terms that my guides gave for this conjunction that's happening was limitless possibility.
Oh, I love that.
So there's so much possibility. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that positivity here, because I think that's important. What?
Yeah. I want nothing. Go ahead.
Okay. So
I'll ask. Okay.
Let's talk about what people can be doing now during this shift to put the intention in, whether it's December 21st or going forward, whatever. It's not about a date. I agree with you. But what can people doing now in the midst of this surface chaos and lies? People are waking up to like, oh my God, the lies are so obvious and what's happening, and people are just scared to do. What can they do now to try to level up and to use their intentions to create what they truly want to experience?
So it's interesting, because even as you're saying this, like I do feel, and I just got chills, I do feel like December, there's still going to be a lot to be revealed, right? Okay. So if you're struggling with everything that's coming to light, I've been told there are some people who are totally just not going to accept it. They're just flat out, they won't look, they're not going to accept it. They're just not. That's going to be the one reality, right? Mm-hmm. Then there's the people like you're talking about that are like, they didn't know before and now they're waking up. And the biggest thing that I can say is don't go into fear, right? Because if it's fear, it's not in alignment with divine love, and God is all about love, right? And abundance and plenty, and everything's going to be okay. The other thing that my guides have said, and it sounds like a broken record to me because I say it all the time, is all is well in divine truth. So if we hold on to that faith, that we know that all is well in divine truth, and then we just have to move through this, right? Like we came here on purpose for this time. So when you're in that space of, okay, what I'm seeing, how am I interpreting that? What are my emotions? Where am I falling into fear? Where can I maybe practice some forgiveness to move forward? Where can I open my own heart to understand things on a deeper level? What do I really stand for? I think that's one of the biggest things right now is, what do you really stand for? And you have to know that within yourself to have that integrity, because if you're saying, well, I believe this, I'm only Democrat, or I'm only Republican because this is how my family was, or because this is whatever. Like you've got to look at those old things of, well, this is the way it's always been done. Yeah. And that needs to go too. My guides have been saying, you've got whatever you're like saying, this is the way it has to be. That's what's going to get shaken up. Yes.
Yeah. We were talking even about the black and white, like when you're so ignorant to life, you think it's literally black and white, but now you see the beauty of the gray. There's gray literally everywhere. Can you tell us maybe something that the guides are saying about us individually with what's to come in 2021 and then as a collective?
Like Shannon. Basically, Shannon wants to give her a reading.
Shannon wants to know, individually, do you see anything, or the guides saying anything for 2021 for me and then for Tim and then as a collective?
Well, okay. So here's the thing. If you're aligned with truth, which you guys are aligned with truth, right? Like, and I know that because I've seen you and I've been on the show. I understand what you guys stand for. It's very clear that you're at least, even if you're not right, like we don't always have to be perfect and right and everything. But if we have the good intentions, right? If we are moving in divine alignment, when you're really listening to yourself and saying, okay, does this feel right? Does this feel good? Is this what I'm supposed to do? When you're asking those questions, you're going to internally feel it. And as long as you're moving in that divine alignment, everything's going to work out. It's all going to be fine. I'm seeing it with even my business clients are like, okay, well, that's what you said. And that's what I did. And now it's just happening. And I'm like, that's because when you're in divine flow, then it just naturally unfolds.
You know?
Yeah.
And you are. Things will naturally unfold for you.
Well, I know, but I was hoping we were going to get juicier, but that's okay.
You got to prepare. You can't just throw somebody on that.
I love throwing people on
All right.
that.
So Jennifer, you're wonderful.
Well, I mean, we could totally do a personal reading if that's
No.
where you let it go. But I'm trying to keep it for everybody. So that
he ruins my questions all the time. It's his favorite thing.
So Jennifer, so what's next for you? Where are you traveling off to? You're in Kansas. How long are you staying there for, Dorothy?
You know, we travel with my husband's work, so I laugh and say we live like gypsies because we literally go wherever the work is. It seems as though this job is going to be, they said a couple weeks. I bet we're here through mid-January.
Wow.
So we'll see. I'm sure we're probably going to be here that long. And then I'm not sure where we'll go for the next job. I feel like we might be going somewhere warmer, but we'll see what happens.
Sweet that she travels with her husband like that.
Wonderful.
That is wonderful. How can people reach you, me included, because Tim ruined my question. How can we follow you and reach you, especially if we do want readings? Where do we go?
My website is a great place, of course. It's just my name.com. So jenniferlonnberg.com. Facebook is a great way to get a hold of me. And luckily I haven't been banned yet. I try really hard to make it like, what do you think? Because that's my job is is to help people be willing to open up to their own understanding within.
Because we all have the power to do it. We all do.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Anyway. All right.
Wonderful. Listen, Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom and your insights. And best of luck traveling wherever you're heading off to. Hey, stop by.